What's up? Welcome in, folks. It's Foxborough Rush. I'm George Balekji. He's Travis Thomas. T, how we doing today, my man?
Well, generally, I like to say welcome to Victory Monday, but
you haven't said that in a long time.
Yeah, I know. You know what I'm calling it? Clarity Monday. We learned a lot about what the Patriots are not.
Yeah.
Clarity.
I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
They're coming off the loss, 34-15 to the Dolphins, and we saw them matched up once again with a good team. And what happens at that point? And this is a Patriots team. Coming into the season, we knew this Patriots team had a bad roster, and it was in a rebuild.
Yes.
But the Patriots have one of the biggest issues any team can face, and that is coaching.
Yes.
Just like their loss against the Seahawks, just like the first time they faced the Dolphins, just like that overtime loss to Tennessee, and
Titans.
even against the Rams.
Yep.
Coaching is not only losing games, but now it's not even letting them get into it.
That's right.
My biggest issue with all of this is, if it wasn't for a Drake May miracle and for a Christian Gonzalez scoop and score, this could have been a 35-0 final. But it's not even that. It's that the Dolphins absolutely dominated this game in the first half. This is Jerod Mayo's 6th time seeing this offense since Mike McDaniel took over the Dolphins. You could say earlier in the year, well, Snoop Huntley, all that. I don't care. No excuses. They've seen this offense enough. They're familiar with the coaching staff, with the matchups. And yes, they're undermanned when it comes to personnel. But to be absolutely overmatched from start to finish, this is when it gets ugly. And this is when the questions of Jerod Mayo, when his defense was terrible, let alone how bad this offense was, you're a defensive head coach. What is continually going on with your defense not even seeming prepared, let alone able to execute in a game?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's you say now it comes up. I've been saying it all year. What does a guy?
But it's week 12. That's what gets me.
What does a guy bring to the table is my question.
I don't know.
I've been asking all year. Yes, you're absolutely right. The defense should be your calling card. The defense looks like Shaq, okay? It looks like hell in a handbasket. It's not working out. What do you bring? Is it the toughness? Do you give some Dan Campbell-ness to your team? Doesn't feel that to me. I mean, there's no creativity offensively. How about the penalties, George? 10 penalties, 75 yards for the Patriots. 3 penalties, 17 yards for the Dolphins.
Out of the penalties that were accepted.
Does that not tell you everything you need to know? One team was buttoned up, had their stuff together. The other team was a mess across the board. This is on Jerod Mayo. We knew the talent wasn't the best in the league. We knew the cupboard was nearly bare here. Yeah. But my God, what do you bring to the table, Jerod Mayo? I'm not seeing anything.
It's not like I was seeing a Patriots win this Sunday.
Right.
But to be this far out of the game, when it gets to the point that Jalen Waddle scores, he had 8 catches, 141 yards, and 6 points. The Patriots offense at that point had 38 plays, 147 yards, and 0 points. Jalen Waddle alone outpacing your entire offense.
That's crazy.
Your offense looking lost. In the first half, the Miami Dolphins offense having a 60% success rate of offensive plays.
Right.
The Patriots had one good drive. 12 plays, 80 yards, really 60 net yards because of penalties.
Yeah.
And what happens? 3rd and 17, 3rd and long, you call a run play, barely goes anywhere. Set yourself up for a 45-yard field goal that Joey Sly misses. How conservative the play calling was, how conservative the decision-making was. Like 4th and 1 on Miami's 48, and you're down 24-0.
Yeah.
And you punt.
Yeah.
How conservative the decision-making, the play calling, the lack of being prepared. Like it's one thing to be unprepared. It's one thing to be this lost on the field.
Yes.
Christian Gonzalez did a good job at Tyreek Hill. Guess what? The Patriots defense didn't blitz too crazily like they did against Matt Stafford. Week-to-week adjustment. But what were you doing the rest of the week? Because on all 3 touchdowns, I'll say this, Kyle Duggar, I think, had his worst career game as a Patriot. Hasn't been playing, been dealing with an injury, but it's how lost he was looking on the touchdowns.
Yep.
The first 3 especially. He was late to Jonnu Smith on the first score. It looked like it was his man to pick up.
Yep.
On the second touchdown, the Achan screenplay, which was run to perfection. Like, credit to the Dolphins on this one. Just had no integrity, got sucked too far to the outside, and there's no one in the middle to at least eat up blocks or blow it up.
Yep.
And then on the 3rd touchdown, again to Achan, he was the only defender that seemed to be on that side of the field. So clearly his man just didn't pick up the running back leaking out of the end zone, and Achan was able to walk in. Like, you're from your best players not playing well to your overall defense not playing well, and we're not even getting to the offense yet, which was not good today.
They weren't in the red zone. They didn't get in the red zone the whole game.
Exactly.
Not one time.
Exactly. This is coaching, and this is the biggest issue you can have. The only thing we consistently walk away from Patriots games saying is Drake May's the guy.
Yes.
We've seen enough early on. Build around him. I think you have something there.
And Christian Gonzalez on the other side.
But Drake May can't continue to be Superman. No quarterback can.
Yeah.
You're going to stunt his growth, or worse, he's going to regress.
Yeah.
And he won't pan out to be what he can. Because on the one touchdown pass he had, that's the flash. That's the greatness of Drake May.
Right.
Extending the play.
Yes.
Getting away from Chop Robinson,
Stiff
who
arm.
absolutely pantsed
Yep.
DeMontre Jacobs on the pass rush.
Yep.
Off platform, off balance throw, 50 yards to Austin Hooper,
Yep.
who gets in and scores. Awesome. But guess what? You can't continually win making plays like that.
Mm-hmm.
You're asking for Drake May to do that 10 to 15 times a game, and that's not sustainable to win games.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting them to beat the Dolphins, but I was expecting them to be closer than this. And that's where you just scratch your head. Last week, it was Matt Stafford picking apart your defense, you making no adjustments at all. This week, it was Tua dicing up your defense that was just not ready to play at all. And who does that fall on, Trav? The defensive-minded head coach. No longer hiding behind your coordinators. You're the head coach. You're the CEO.
Yeah.
You run the show. You have to fix this.
Yeah, I mean, right now they're too Drake May dependent. And we've seen, a lot of teams around this league with franchise quarterbacks sort of fall into that. And the quarterbacks are much better when they can be efficient. I mean, names that come to mind, there's a lot of examples, but names that come to mind to me now are Josh Allen. You look at Josh Allen, he has a run game. He's much more efficient. The turnovers are not as bad this season as they've been in years past when they were too dependent on him. Lamar Jackson, same thing now with Derrick Henry. Obviously, Justin Herbert and how they run the ball with the Chargers now by committee has taken less load off of Justin Herbert, and he's much more efficient.
Yeah.
That's really the way you should be thinking about building around Drake May. Obviously, we know he needs a better offensive line. And I know everyone talks about weapons on the outside, myself included, but get him a strong running game. I mean, you just got to build around this kid because right now he is literally a kid. He's a rookie, and you're dependent on him. And I saw a hit against the Dolphins where, I didn't think he was going to get up. They were dragging him up on his feet. They were trying to help him up. He's laying there like, come on, man, you got to get up. And then when he got to his feet, he looked a little woozy to me.
Yeah.
So it's like you're going to get this kid clobbered, and then we won't have a chance to develop him and see what he's all about. I put that on Jerod Mayo. Look, I said this to you on Boston Has Entered the Chat. I said, there's a football cliche about X's and O's and Jimmys and Joes. Generally, it's one or the other. You have a great coach, but you don't have the players, the Jimmys and the Joes, right? Or you have a ton of talent, so you have the Jimmys and the Joes, but your X's and O's suck. In the Patriots case, they don't have either.
Yeah.
You have two guys, Christian Gonzalez, Drake May. That's it. Everyone else, I don't give a damn who you name, is expendable in my mind. And then Jerod Mayo, what do you bring? What is it that you say that you do here, man? Like what do you bring?
Yeah.
There are reports that after this game against the Dolphins, where you got embarrassed, that the locker room was, quote, light. What the hell for? You don't deserve to be playing music and kikiing and yucking it up. Hell no. You just got embarrassed. And by the way, if those reports are true, right? And the locker room's light and guys are high-fiving and having fun.
I mean, they weren't doing that.
Playing the new Kendrick album.
They were not doing this.
Jerod Mayo should go off. He should go in there and absolutely lose his mind. He should lose his shack all over that locker room. I just, listen, I don't know what does he bring? There's no creativity offensively. We just talked about that.
He's not an offensive-minded coach.
They were not prepared for this game. The penalties were absurd. What do you bring, bro? What is it that you're bringing to this team? I'll give them this, and this doesn't even seem like a compliment, but it's true. They're not quitting on him. But even to that, I would say, how many more games do we have left, George? I mean, it's not too late. I mean, I don't think they're going to win another game. They could quit on him.
We'll get to that. So the report on locker room, that's from Andrew Callahan. He said, quote, tweeted this. That was one of the lighter Patriots locker rooms after a bad loss I can remember. Not a happy locker room, but more players smiling and joking than normal to say it felt at least accepting of the blowout and the reality of 3-9.
Come on.
So a guy that's covered the team for a long time, been there since obviously the last few years. There's locker rooms after losses, and then there's this one where it looks like the players are like, hey, one more game, then the bye. We could be back here in Miami, warm weather, or just looking at 5 games left on the season, 6 weeks left, and it's the offseason, and we just get away from this because we stink. The roster wasn't good. It's a bottom 5 roster. It still is. The quarterback only does so much to cover up deficiencies.
Yep.
But again, it is looking this bad for this many quarters.
Yeah.
And to take it back to, if Drake Maye doesn't have a miracle play, getting away from a pass rush, if Jalen Wright and Skylar Thompson, Mike McDaniel pulled the starters, if Jalen Wright and Skylar Thompson don't execute a single simple handoff, if they execute that, this is 34-7 at best. Christian Gonzalez doesn't have that scoop and score opportunity.
That is right, yeah.
Jalen Waddle continued to have a big game. The offensive line, we didn't even get into that. It's real quick. I mean, you mentioned it, but O-line penalties. Vidarian Lowe, false start on the first drive. DeMontre Jacobs, false start second drive. Vidarian Lowe, false start, same drive. DeMontre Jacobs holding, same drive, which made 2nd and 6 on the Miami 20 becomes 2nd and 16 on Miami 30. Lowe holding on the fourth drive to start it. Lowe false start on Wenu holding. Austin Hooper neutral zone infraction that negated a different penalty. Keyshawn Boutte offensive pass interference. It's just all these penalties. It's all over the offense. Just awful, but the offensive line was absolutely terrible. Vidarian Lowe, DeMontre Jacobs bad. Eventually benched for City So. Neither of the tackles doing anything right, not setting the offense up for success, and leaving their quarterback out to dry. Nothing could happen on offense because after that one drive, 12 plays, they net 60 yards. Their following 3 drives net negative 24 yards. It's that bad. Penalties, sacks. It's week 12, and that's what gets me is at this point, you got to look better than this. And this roster, this team, it's the same. It's a bad football team. And you see what they look like when they match up with good teams.
It makes me question the game plan from the beginning because in a game like this against an explosive Dolphins offense, I mean, hell, man, like you don't even have to be a football genius. Common sense tells you, okay, we don't have the horses to keep up with these guys in a shootout. What we have to do here, we have to come in here and we have to win at the point of attack. We have to impose our will. We have to out-physical them. We have to punch them in the mouth. This should have been a huge day for Ramondre Stevenson. This should have been we can't allow penalties to kill us. We can't allow turnovers to kill us. We got to have our stuff together here. We got to sustain drives. We got to win time of possession. We got to win the turnover battle. We got to win the penalties. And then we have maybe a shot because we've kept that offense, that explosive offense on the sideline. And that's where Barmore and Christian Gonzalez and those guys, someone gives us a play here or there, or a call goes our way, or a bounce of the ball goes our way here or there. We're in this game for sure with this game plan. And then maybe if we do everything right, we got a chance to steal it and get a great quality win against a rival on the road in a place where we historically as a franchise don't play well at. I didn't see any of that. But that, I mean, am I wrong, George? That's like obvious. That's Captain Obvious stuff. What did they think they were going to come in here and do? They shoot it out with Tua? I mean, come on, bro.
Well, it's all they can do. I mean, their best player is their quarterback, and that's how he has to play. The run game was awful today. Ramondre Stevenson, I mean, just kept
never
in
got
check.
a chance.
8 carries, 13 yards. Yeah, there was no way you could even establish the run.
Yeah.
You're not on the field.
That's right.
You have that 12-play drive. After that, it's 9 plays the rest of the half.
Yeah.
Negative 24 yards. I mean, nothing's going to get established there at that point.
That's right.
But again, like you laid out a strategy, there's nowhere close to the execution of this.
I don't even. My point is,
especially with the play calling, how conservative it was too.
My point is, I don't even know if that's a game plan. That's the issue. That's my point. It's kind of common sense to me how all these Patriots games should go, but certainly this one.
On 3rd and 17, you decided to run the ball, and then you miss a field goal.
Right.
4th and 1 on Miami's 48. You're down 24-0. You punt.
Yeah.
2nd and 9, now down 31-7. You're still running the ball. Like,
yeah.
What are you doing at this point?
Right.
What is happening?
Man, this game was over by halftime, dog.
It was ugly. Yes, it was. This
game was over.
If Skylar Thompson and Jalen Wright can execute on a simple handoff, look like an RPO. Skylar Thompson can move a little.
Yeah.
If they can just get the quarterback running back exchange on an RPO, then this game is not even like this final score. The turnovers, the scoring, it was awful. So, hey, make sure to tune in every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for new episodes of Foxborough Rush. Every Monday, break down the game. Every Wednesday, talk NFL draft and futures. Every Friday, joined by Michael Lombardi of VEASAN and a former NFL exec. That's Foxborough Rush, wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Prime. Make sure to go to NESN's YouTube page, hit the subscribe button as well. You can catch all the episodes, watch them there along with our clips. All right, let's bring him in now. Sean McGuire of NESN.com. Catch all his coverage on the Patriots over on NESN.com as well. Sean, how we doing, my man?
We're back here again, George.
That's what it is. There's no such thing as Victory Mondays. Travis going Clarity Mondays, which I'm fine with.
Clarity.
What's a clarity you walk away from this game? 34-15 final. Dolphins hand the Patriots another loss in a game where New England was nowhere near even competitive with Miami.
Yeah, I mean, they took a massive step back. I mean, defensively, it's glaring. I mean, abysmal, I would say, is probably the best word for it. Just to get shredded like that. I think that's got to be it. Just a huge step back. I mean, and it's like we thought we saw the offensive line kind of play better. They actually have gained some familiarity, I guess, over the last 3 weeks. At this point, it was, they've gained some continuity. And for them to just look as bad as they did, really underwhelming and disappointing, and they couldn't get anything going. And then there's still some miscommunications with, Drake Maye and Pop Douglas on one or two plays. So it's just, there was so much that just was very bad. And it's just, like I said, it's like, it is disappointing because, we've sat here the last 4 weeks at this point and competitive losses and, beating teams that are below them. And this, so they were closer to average, I guess, over the last 4 weeks than, they were inching closer to that. And this, we can't say the same thing at this point.
What stood out to you the most in terms of frustration? Was it the penalties? Was it the turnovers? Was it just the flatness of the team? Like, what had you the most upset?
That's a good question. I think penalties is probably number one. Yeah. I'll also just say it just seems like there was so much zone again. I think Christian Gonzalez did come out and said that he was guarding Tyreek Hill more, certainly more than last week when they played against the Rams and they didn't have him shadowing those guys at all. But that's a different point, right? But I would say just, that sort of defensive scheme. And it seemed like any time that Jalen Waddle, wanted to find a spot, he was able to do so very easily. Jonnu Smith, who did next to nothing with the Patriots over 2 years, just absolutely went off during what's going to be a career year for him. So I think the most frustrating thing to me was just defensively. I mean, to give up 24 points in the second quarter alone, to give up, the first 31 points of the game. You guys just mentioned that it was over at halftime, and it just and George, I think you touched on it too. Like, I'm not saying this because I thought that the Patriots were going to win this game. I did not think that. I thought that Miami is really, trending in a much better direction now with Tua back. So I didn't expect it. I also didn't expect them to just take such a massive step, massive, noticeable step back.
Yeah, it's like if it was 35-21, I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense. But
right.
Like that's 35-21 of like piecing together drives.
Yep.
I mean, this game was 7.5, 8-point spread. I like that you brought up Jonnu Smith. 2 seasons with the Patriots, 55 catches, 539 yards, 1 touchdown. 60 catches, 535 yards, 3 touchdowns this season, including going 987 and 1 today.
Wow.
I hope Jonnu Smith scored and Robert Kraft was scratching his head from the suite going, is that the guy we gave $31 million guaranteed to? Why didn't he work out here? Oh, good athlete, not a well-polished pass catcher, but if you put a smart offensive mind with him that knows how to use him, obviously the guy has an impact on a game because he's been going off the last 2 weeks. We point out, I mean, the penalties were terrible, especially your tackles. You said it finally, offensive line maybe settling down. Vidarian Lowe and DeMontre Jacobs, one of those, I'll give the Vidarian Lowe false start, is him jumping the snap. If you watch a Chiefs game, their tackles do it literally every play.
Yeah, they do.
But it's the consistent holdings. It is a consistent false starts. It is the neutral zone infraction by an Austin Hooper not knowing where to line up. It's, again, within the details, a lack of execution. The defense was terrible, and then the offense still looked lost, Sean.
Yeah, and some of those penalties, I mean, especially the early ones, like you start to put a little bit of a drive together, and who knows, if they go down and they score a touchdown on that 12-play drive, well, it ended up being a 12-play drive, that drive that I'm talking about, if they don't go down and score a touchdown there, it might be a wildly different game. Or if they didn't have whatever it was, I think it was 2 different false starts during that drive that kind of backed up the field goal. I mean, maybe that's a easier field goal for Joey Slye, and he hits that, and I do. And Kendrick Bourne said this after the game. It was that drive, to not get points out of that drive. I think he called it an energy killer, I believe was the quote. And it's true. I mean, it's just how different the game would be if any of those things went differently. And then I think it was the second half. But there was another holding penalty. I think that might have been Vidarian Lowe that negated like a 20-yard screen to Ramondre Stevenson, and it was that was a pretty nice play call. That was a nice play design. Ramondre obviously did a great job with a second effort and getting some yards after contact there, but just a really nice play. And for that 20-yard gain to get negated, I mean, this isn't an offense that has explosive plays. They don't benefit from those a ton. So to have one of those called back, it definitely disappointing.
What'd you make of the trick play? I know you love that, didn't you? The nice, was it Kendrick Bourne that threw that? That was awful. That was awful.
Hey, if you're enjoying this episode of Foxborough Rush, wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, make sure to head over there, like, subscribe, download, rate, review. If you're on NESN's YouTube page watching along, hit the subscribe button as well. New episodes dropping every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Wherever you get your podcasts, that's Foxborough Rush.
Yeah, Kendrick Bourne kind of took blame, put it on himself a little bit, said that it was poor execution. I don't know if I like the play call itself. I also thought that the 2-point conversion one, which was that's a nice play call. 2-point, it was like almost like a little bit of a hook and ladder sort of thing, and I liked it. I guess I'm a little curious why they would use it in that spot in the game. I mean, down 2 possessions, clearly not a game that you're going to win. I mean, maybe used that a few weeks ago, right when they were looking for a goal line touchdown.
S-Mac, you are too nice. So let me cut to the chase, because I was giving you an off-ramp there. I thought you were going to take it. You're not taking it, so I'm going to drive the car there, okay? Everyone, including yourself, is telling me Jerod Mayo is safe. Okay, fine. Somebody's head's got to roll. I mean, is DeMarcus Covington in trouble? Is Alex Van Pelt in trouble? Somebody's got to go, man. Come on, S-Mac. You got to whack somebody who's in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, there's been reports over the last week at this point, too, that all of them are kind of saying the same thing. It was Ian Rappaport that said, the staff seems safe. I believe it was Diana Rossini that had a similar one. Yep. I think that if it's going to be anyone, I think it's got to be DeMarcus Covington. I mean, it's been really... Again, I don't know what a better word is besides disappointing. I mean, terrible, I guess, is probably a better word. It's been, the defense has just been abysmal. And I think, you talk about the defensive-minded head coach in Jerod Mayo. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's going anywhere. I certainly don't think that a loss like this helps him, helps his case at all, but I don't think he's going anywhere. And if it's going to come down to it, I think it would be DeMarcus Covington. And I'm not even trying to say that I don't even think that DeMarcus Covington, I'm not trying to say that I think he will be fired. I guess I'm just trying to say that I think if you are to point at anyone, I think it does have to be him at this point.
And you wonder, too, like the head coach that is defensive-minded, that wants to let DeMarcus Covington run the defense, fine, cool, awesome, love it. But even look at a defensive-minded head coach that's now fired, and Robert Saleh. That defense for the Jets was one of the best defenses in the NFL. Jeff Ulbrich was known, like, hey, he will be a head coach one day, really good defensive coordinator. But Robert Saleh was still in charge of and took ownership of that defense. You fire Robert Saleh, Jeff Ulbrich is stretched too thin, and look at that defense. It falls off ever since Saleh was given his walking papers from New York. Yep. I'm saying that to say this. Clearly, DeMarcus Covington is stretched too thin. Clearly, DeMarcus Covington needs help, and clearly, Jerod Mayo needs to do that. And you're doing an injustice to DeMarcus Covington, developing as a defensive coordinator who went from D-line coach to DC, was a good D-line coach for the Pats when he was there. You're doing a disjustice to this defensive staff who has good guys, experienced guys in certain spots. A Mike Pellegrino, a Brian Belichick that's still there, a DeMarcus Covington who's done well. It's just what your strength of your team needs to be this defense, although banged up, but like you're getting healthy at the right time. Sean, all 3 first half touchdowns, the defense looked lost. Kyle Duggar looked lost on the field. And that's what gets me. It's like the offense had no strategy, had nothing going right. And you're going to tell me, and I understand what Kendrick Bourne is saying, but you're going to tell me the second drive of the game was an energy killer? The second drive of a game, that killed your energy. There's a lot of football left. This is all a compiling reflection of the leadership on that staff, and it's not looking good, man.
No, I agree. And I do think, and I'll say it again, I think over the last, 4 weeks, call it a month, I think we've sat here after games and said, okay, they're actually building something. They're developing, they're improving, they are taking steps forward. And this is a team that wins and losses did not matter entering the season. They just didn't. It was all about Drake Maye. It was all about developing. And so we started at. And at this point, whatever it is, 6 weeks removed from Jerod Mayo's soft comment, or whatever, whenever that was, it seems like the messaging just didn't land and isn't landing at this point. I mean, for them to make all the, same penalties and all that sort of stuff, like I do think that there's something to be said about, I don't think a Vidarian Lowe false start should be put on Jerod Mayo. Like, I do think, you're a professional, just go on the snap. So I do think there's some of that. But I also think when it comes down to it, I mean, penalties are a reflection of the coach, and a lot of that stuff, it doesn't look good on Jerod. So you talk about the penalties, you talk about the the lapses on the defense, and it wasn't competitive, and they didn't have an answer for anything. And second straight week you've gone against a good offensive minded head coach, and you've gotten pantsed both weeks at this point. And so it doesn't look good on Jerod. You're right.
Let me ask you this, because I've been saying this to George nonstop. I said there are 2 players on this roster that I would hang up the phone if someone calls for: Drake Maye and Christian Gonzalez. Everyone else is expendable. I don't give a damn who you name. I would be willing to listen. When I watched this Gonzalez kid, I mean, look, everyone knew he could ball from his rookie season. The question was, can he stay healthy? So now he's showing, I can ball. What you saw was true. I'm going to give you a larger sample size of it. And, oh, by the way, now I'm healthy, and I can prove that I could stay healthy. Can you talk to me about the development of this young man? Because the scoop and score he had gave me a feeling like maybe the Patriots might have a little rally in them and they can hang in this game. That was incorrect, but that's not his fault. And I also thought he did a really good job on Tyreek Hill. Talk to me about what you see when you watch Christian Gonzalez this season.
Yeah, no, I see. I mean, line up against, the top receiver again, in comparison to last week, he's done it a ton this year. Again, a lot in the beginning half of the season, and he's looked great. I mean, he's fast, he's fluid. He's such a good defender that you're right. I mean, it's a really good sign that he is taking steps forward, because I do think one of the biggest things, and I remember writing it at the time entering the year, that so much of the hype about Christian Gonzalez was based on 4 games. And, so for him to be like an actual legit lockdown corner, stud, he did need to come out and have a good second season. And he has done that. I think with that said, I think that a huge development and in this game alone is that the Patriots need another corner, at least one. I mean, they've gotten really shredded these last few weeks. So I don't want to say it's certainly not, top of the draft board. No. I think that's pretty clear that that's offensive tackle at this point. But I do think this game really did show us that, the Patriots need another corner. Jonathan Jones is just, that's not going to do it anymore. Marcus Jones got got beat pretty handily today as well. So I think it shows that you need more corners.
Wait a minute. What are you doing, George? Saying no? Are both of you okay? Are you guys okay? You watch college football, right? There is a corner to be had at the top of the draft board named Travis Hunter. Why do you both
because I watch his offensive
that?
line suck, and this is a defense that can invest in a guy later, Azare Thomas, a Dalen Everett, a later round guy from Georgia, a Davison Igbinison, who we saw matching up well with Indiana.
Ain't none of them, Trav.
And look, in a weak tackle free agency class, when a Charvarius Ward, a Taula Noah Hufanga, a Javon Holland is out there where you need help at safety and need help at corner, this is how a multi-year rebuild is. It's going to take 3 years. It just needs to look better than what we see now. So, yes, is cornerback the one top of the draft? No. You go tackle, you go receiver, you sign T. Higgins. You draft one of these guys later, but cornerback can't be the high of a priority when you have a mess everywhere. And again, you have to pick and choose your poison. What can you work in free agency? What can you work in the draft? What can you possibly work in a trade? Offensive tackles are tough to come by. And what we see and what you'll see, like in the Chargers, it took 3 years for them to rebuild their offensive line with 3 first-round picks. Obviously, tackles and good offensive linemen are tough to come by. Maybe Mike Onwenu who's good at right guard. Maybe Cole Strange can be a good center. And then with a draft, you get a solid left tackle in Kelvin Banks. You figure out left guard, you figure out right tackle, and you go from there. Again, with the Caden Wallace, if he's a right tackle, that's fine because you have Kelvin Banks. Caden Wallace still needs to get healthy. And then if left guard's your biggest weakness, then fine, you can live with that. That's why I say the no to top of the draft.
2 for 1, George. You could get 2 for 1 in the top 5. 2 for 1 meaning you get a corner and a wide receiver, 2 areas of need on this team. And Lord knows you need a playmaker. This kid gives you all of that in the top 5. That's all I'm saying.
100 snaps a game in the NFL ain't reality.
Yeah,
especially
I didn't mean to start this. I didn't mean to start this when I said that.
No, it's fine. I'm actually happy you said it because what we did early in the week, and that's we could catch every Wednesday on Foxborough Rush, we did our cornerback episode. So they were like the guys that I named.
We did.
And then they were the top guys of the draft. But to your point, too, is that Christian Gonzalez, 6'1", Marcus Jones, 6'8", Jonathan Jones, Marcus Jones, 5'8", Jonathan Jones, 5'9", Travis Hunter, Will Johnson, Siobhan Ravel, Takario Davis, Denzel Burke. Top corners in the draft, 6'1" and taller. Top corners around the NFL, Kenyon Mitchell, Pat Surtain, 6'1" and taller. Tariq Woolen, 6'1" and taller. So there's a frame. That's what they got. Sean, we'll let you go. You appreciate you always making time out of your game day to come on these Clarity Monday episodes. We'll call them when they drop. He's Sean McGuire. Check him out on NESN.com. Sean, real quick, give us one of your 3 up, 3 down that you always put out.
Oh man, it's this is the downs are tough. I think you got to go.
If you put no one up, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I think you got to go DeMontre Jacobs as the biggest stud. I mean, Vidarian Lowe is certainly up there as well, but DeMontre Jacobs just really got ran over. I think it was like 7 pressures. Obviously, I think it was 2 penalties on him. Gave up a sack. He could have given up another sack. Drake Maye was called an incomplete pass instead of that, so that benefited the Patriots, but that would have been on DeMontre Jacobs as well. Yeah. And I would say maybe the only stud of the game, I'm going to go with Austin Hooper. I mean, he had the long touchdown. He had that was a nice play. A lot of that was on Drake too. Really highlight reel play from him, getting outside of the pocket and throwing on the move. But I would say the studs were few and far between. So I'll go with Austin Hooper.
Hey, identified a coverage bust on that cover 2. Drake May extended the play, just get open, make the catch. Execution is what we saw. He's Sean McGuire. Catch him on NESN.com. His full coverage of the Patriots. Sean, we'll see you as always later on in the week and later down the season. More clarity coming your way. Appreciate you, my man.
Yep, thanks, guys.
Hey, if you're enjoying this conversation, make sure to check out NESN's daily sports podcast, Boston Center, the chat. You can enter the conversation by tweeting at us using the hashtag NESNChat or email thechat@nesn.com. Boston has entered the chat, available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever else podcasts are found. And if you're watching on the NESN YouTube page, hit the subscribe button as well to follow along for new content dropping every day across all our podcasts. All right, Trav, so this was, I never picked this game as a winnable game. I put it simply, they're going to South Beach. It's been a long season, 2 weeks before the bye. Yeah. Patriots don't win in Miami. I didn't think they'd lose this bad.
Yeah.
Colts at home next week. 1 p.m. kickoff, December 1st. Colts are a dome team. They're not that good.
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson is still Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
Colts bye at Arizona, at Buffalo, home against LA Chargers, home against the Bills. Is there one more win in these last 5 games for the Patriots?
No.
Yeah.
It is over.
Maybe the Colts game, but this team is
I
so
don't think
checked
so.
out. It's the report that Andrew Callahan had where he's like, they're not playing music, they're not happy, but this is a more lighter locker room than I've seen.
Yes.
As in, they're accepting they stink. They're accepting the loss. They accept where they stand at 3-9 on the year. Okay, you have a Colts team that's still like Anthony Richardson's a competitor. Jonathan Taylor runs hard.
Yeah,
this is a
dude.
team that still wants to win games and prove themselves.
Yes.
And they're going to come in and they can match up with your weaknesses of your defense isn't great. And guess what? Your offense doesn't score. So if they just eat up the clock and take Drake Maye off the field, home, last game before the bye, like this Colts team's not great.
Yeah.
But as we saw, like this Patriots team loses to bad teams.
Bro, Anthony Richardson has been more up and down than a roller coaster. But when he's up, one of the constant things or consistent things that has been there when he does play well is that he's comfortable. He's not under duress. He is. I think it does take him longer to process defenses, to go through his reads. But hell, I mean, if he ain't getting home to him, he could take his time and do that. That's what we saw with Tua. Now, Tua gets rid of the ball fast,
Yeah.
and he processes very quickly.
Yeah.
But what I'm speaking to is zero pass rush, okay? So if you can't get to Anthony Richardson and make him uncomfortable, I'm not saying he's not 93 Dan Marino here. He's not going to sit back there and pick you apart.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he can have some success in the air if you're not getting home to him, if you're not making him uncomfortable. By the way, if you get to him, he's big enough to stiff arm you or run your arse over. So that's something that needs to be discussed by Jerod Mayo and crew, who I have zero faith in, to come up schematically with a game plan to make Anthony Richardson uncomfortable. Where I'm going in this game, I think Jonathan Taylor is about to have a field day with the Patriots defense.
Yeah.
This is a guy, he really hasn't had the kind of season that I thought he was going to have. I thought him and Richardson both, as a running unit, were going to be maybe tops in the league and rival that of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. I thought that's what we were going to get from this Colts offense this season. Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. Lord knows my fantasy team thought that, and we are reeling because that is not the reality. This week, I think it will be. I think what we should have seen all season from the Colts rushing attack, we'll see against the Patriots. This will be a low-scoring, ugly game. Drake May's going to keep you in it. But I think the Colts are going to run the football down the Patriots' faces.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be those two, Taylor and Richardson.
It's also the fact that this Patriots defense, I mean, just continues to be absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
And once again, just generating no pressures. 6 pressures against Matt Stafford last week, just 7 pressures against Tua Tagovailoa. Yeah, they had 2 sacks, but the pressures are what matters. Like the sacks are good.
Yes.
But if you consistently have pressure and continue to move the pocket and disrupt timing of a quarterback, that's your biggest asset.
That's right.
But that pressures mean you're getting there. You may not be finishing, but you're messing up the flow and timing of an offense. That's why pressures to many coaches are more important than sacks.
Yes.
Cool, you got home and you sacked him. Did you run into it? Was it a coverage sack, which is great?
Right.
But that's not continuous. But you'll see defenses with 15, 20 pressures a game.
Yep.
You won't see defenses with 10, let alone 5 sacks a game. But like, can they at least get to the quarterback? Can they stop the run? This was a game where, like, go back a week against the Rams. Kyron Williams, Blake Corum did well against the Patriots run D. Didn't do exceptional, but did well.
That's right.
Run game wasn't explosive, but the extension of the run game, like Devin Achan out of the backfield, continued to gash his Patriots team up and down.
Yep.
What's going to happen in the matchup with the Colts? This is a Colts team that has dealt with their blows, caught their L's. Patriots team right before the bye, it's at home.
Yep.
If it was in the Dome, I'd be like, the Colts are going to win it. The only thing I give them is it's outdoors. But let's see what Shane Steichen does. Does he lean on his strengths? Then out of the bye, they're at Arizona. Guess what? Cardinals team winning with defense. Cardinals team running the ball. Setting up Kyler Murray to not be Superman.
Yeah.
But hey, we're going to give you a good run game. We have a good receiver. We'll see how Christian Gonzalez matches up with MHJ. But it's more of out of the bye at Arizona, warm
have a good
weather,
tight end, too.
distractions.
Yeah.
Yeah, good Trey McBride.
They're not winning another game. You know that, George.
They're like at Bills, no.
No.
Against the Chargers, they play tough. They'll be fighting for a playoff spot.
They're not
and
winning
seeding.
another game.
They'll need to, if they don't win their division, fight for the wild card. They're not going to win their division.
Right.
And then that's a Bills team that could be fighting for the 1 or 2 seed in the AFC. Like that Week 18 game, the only way I would give it is if the top seed was locked, but the Bills had their division crown locked, and they go, you know what, we'll be the 3, it's fine.
Yeah.
No, like them beating the Chiefs puts a lot of things up in the air,
Yeah.
and they're not going to be resting their starters.
That's right.
Yeah, it's at home. How checked out is this team? How empty is that stadium going to be?
That's right. Yeah. No, it's a mess. The Colts game is the only shot you have, and I just don't see it. I think they're going to lose that game. I think the Colts are a better team than them. I think the Colts are underachieving this season, whereas the Patriots are just what they are. Yeah. Does that make sense? So if you're the Colts, this is the kind of game that you sort of, and we've used this phrase before, you sort of get right. Now, they're not good enough, the Colts I'm talking about, to go out and beat the hell out of the Patriots. I don't see that. I don't see the same type of game we just watched against the Dolphins happening with the Colts. They're not that good. That's why I said I could see a tight game, but in the end, I just, especially the way, if I'm right, the Colts are going to out-physical you. They're going to bully you.
Yep.
And send you to the bye week battered and bruised. And your ego's hurt because you've lost all these games, and this team just punched you in the mouth. Jerod Mayo needs to win this Colts game. I mean, it's a must-win for him in the sense that if you can win the Colts game, likely that's going to be your last win of the season. Likely. It sounds like we both agree on that, if you win it. And then also, more importantly, you go into a bye week with some sort of positive vibes.
Some juice.
You beat the Colts. We just beat the Bears a few weeks back. And then we lost to 2 really good, certainly the Rams we think is going to be a playoff team, and the Dolphins could be as well. They're fighting for their wild card.
Yeah.
With 2 elite coaches. No one will argue that.
Yeah.
So, okay. You can kind of, in the bye week, you can have some teachable moments, right? Okay, well, if you get punched in the mouth and you lose to the Colts, what are you saying in that bye week? I mean, that's what I said. A few weeks ago, I gave Jerod Mayo all these props for like, oh, okay, well, his team's not quitting on him. Eberflus and Waldron and those guys, that team's quit. Well, I mean, we just talked about it. You just went through all those games. Bills twice.
Yep.
I mean, out in the desert, Harbaugh. Like, this team can quit on you. There's still time on the clock. If you lose that Colts game, it could happen. You get in the bye week, I don't know what you preach. What the hell do you preach to these guys? I mean, if the Colts run the football down your throat and you lose that game, what are you preaching in the bye? I guarantee you.
It's a checkout.
It's checked out. It's going over their head, in one ear, out the other. Boop, it's gone.
Yeah.
And then you go get drubbed in the desert. Now you got the Bills twice and Harbaugh. This team will quit. They'll lay down. And then maybe Robert Kraft will come to the light.
But it's like, to me, it's not the wins and losses. It's like, can this team at least be close?
Yeah, but
it's
if they quit,
it's
George,
how they're preparing. But if they win, if they win, and then the same, I understand the significance of a win because it keeps the players locked in. I get that.
Yes.
But if you at least are setting up the players for success, if you're taking leadership and command and showing discipline. Like, if they win and they get blown out the final 4 games, Arizona, LA, Bills twice, then what does that win do? It's water under the bridge at that point.
Yeah.
Play the Colts tough. Can you finish strong? Because as Jerod Mayo said, everyone putting so much into year one. Like, well, Dan Campbell went 3-13-1 his rookie season as a head coach. Yeah, he won 3 of his last 6 games of the season. He showed that end of season turnaround. So obviously I'm going with direct wins and losses there.
Yeah.
But it's even the fact that he was able to turn something around. This team took a step back against the Dolphins.
Sure.
The coaching staff took a step back against the Rams. As a whole, they took a step back against Miami.
Yeah.
Can you take step forwards and continue to show progress and fight? And if you show something, momentum going into the offseason is worth something. I don't see them grabbing much of it.
No.
Every game is just must win for Jerod Mayo.
No.
Because at this point he has to show, and his coaching staff has to show they're doing something, and there has to be buy-in from the players because they're going to go into this offseason and like there's not a part of where the team takes them serious. And as we've seen of the team starting to relax, showing up for training camp, does that bleed into it? I'm looking way down the road. I'm getting into crazy hypotheticals. Every game is a must show up for Jerod Mayo because you have to prove your case as a head coach. And you have to show outside free agents,
Yeah.
outside coaching candidates you want to bring in, that there is stability and there is something good. Because the only thing, just as it is, the only thing the Patriots have to show right now is a quarterback. It's not a head coach.
No, yeah, you're right.
It's not ownership. It's not facilities.
Yeah.
It's not a roster.
That's right.
It's not spending.
No.
It's not a winning culture because they haven't been winning since 2019.
Yeah.
All they have is a quarterback going into year 2.
Here's where I disagree with you, though, a little. Well, where you say, well, it's water under the bridge even if they beat the Colts. I disagree. I think that Colts one is more important because right now, Jerod Mayo, and it's a sad standard. Please don't mix up what I'm saying here. It is sad that this is the case, but it is the case nonetheless that right now, this second, Jerod Mayo's calling card is this team. I still have them. This team hasn't quit on me. They're playing hard for me, and I think he's right. You lose that Colts game, and you go into the bye. That's a longer bye now, brother. I mean, because the Colts, all of us agree, that's at least winnable game. You go to the desert the way the Cardinals are playing, Bills twice, Chargers twice, and you lose those games. If you're competitive because those guys aren't quitting on you, you can live with that. You can stomach that. I think this Colts game is more important than what you're putting on. I'm telling you, if they go out, especially the way I think it could look, if they go out and get physically beat up, George, and lose that game, close or not, but they get bullied and they lose, this is going to be the longest bye week of anyone in that building's lives. I'm telling you. That's when guys will check out. That's when what we talked about earlier in the show. You're making vacation plans. You're doing all, right? Guys are done. When you come back out of the bye, generally, teams out of the bye are better. I think they could be worse if you lose this Colts game. That's where that's the only place I disagree with you. Is I don't think it's every week he's got to. Obviously, he's being evaluated, but I think that Colts game's a must-win for the psyche of this team and for the team to continue to play hard for Jerod Mayo. If they lose that game, I think he could lose them.
So also, if you lose this Colts game, going to the bye, you know what the report should come out going into the bye? Jerod Mayo's taking over play calling of the defense.
Oh, yeah.
Why, like we watched Mike McDaniel.
Yeah.
Offensive-minded, offensive play caller.
You're right.
Matt LaFleur just beat the 49ers. Offensive-minded, offensive play caller. Kevin O'Connell. Sean McVay. Now look at Dan Quinn in Washington, right? Like just look at what Robert Saleh was. Again, ownership of the Jets defense.
That's right.
Why? I understand offensive, defensive-minded head coaches, and a coach has to be a delegator and let your coordinators work.
Right.
But some of the most successful head coaches, they still control their side of the ball. Why is there that lack of control from Jerod Mayo on his side of the ball?
That's right.
They lose that Colts game, something has to change. Whereas a head coach, you have to prove yourself the last 5 weeks and correct those mistakes. Don't be a repeat offender. Jerod Mayo said it day one.
He sure did.
He's been a repeat offender by continuing to let this defense make mistakes. And he's a repeat offender not trying to make solutions and correct those mistakes. So we'll see. You know what it is, no matter what, Trav, if they beat the Colts and they get that win?
What?
It's a 4-win team.
Yeah, at best. They ain't winning. I don't think they're a 4-win team. I think this is it, brother. Clarity Mondays.
Especially the reports coming out. It's like a lighter locker room. They're accepting what they are.
Get ready. Clarity Mondays.
At least it was warm in Miami. You don't mind being outside. Home, cold, it's windy.
Oh.
It's getting brutal here in New England.
Fans aren't showing up.
Bye week on the other side of that game.
God.
Colts will show up, I think.
Colts, yeah, I think so.
Patriots team is tough. That's a 5-win Colts team.
Clarity Mondays, bro. Get used to them.
You know, I don't mind them. Clarity Mondays for everyone. Hey, comment with what you want to bring some clarity to this. He's Travis Thomas. I'm George Balekji. If you're listening along on Spotify, if you're watching along on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Appreciate you guys making us a part of your day. Shout out Sean McGuire hopping on the program. As always, we'll have Keegan Stiefel on Wednesday. No Mike Lombardi this week. We'll have a special episode dropping a Foxborough Rush for you guys as well. He's Double T. I'm GB. We'll see you guys later on this week. Have a good one.